I say that in jest. By God's grace, over the last month, I've lost 20 pounds. I gotta be very honest with you. I hide behind being a foodie, but really I'm a food addict. In order for me to lose weight, I had to come to terms with that. Because I've tried everything. I tried keto, South Beach, North Beach, West Beach, Outer Beach, Inner Beach, Tidal Wave, Insanity. Oh Lord, I've tried everything. And it seemed like I did it and it came back with a vengeance. And my coach said something to me. I should have saved this for illustration for the sermon, but I'm already in it now. He said there's two things you're gonna have to face. And accountability, you gotta really be godly to hear accountability, because they tell you what you don't want to hear. That's a word already for you right now. And one thing he told me, he said, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that your overeating is a spiritual issue. Every time I would get depressed, I would go in my basement, sit on my couch, and get a bag of Doritos and a good soda. And listen, hey y'all, and I'm eating and I'm going out, posting enjoyment, but really, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying food. But he said, you're gonna have to learn that food is a tool. And he said, you're gonna have to change your mind about it. And that's been the biggest help for me, coming to terms with it's an addiction. And I have to learn how to deal positively with stress. Because all of us go to something when we're stressed. And my thing that I went through heavily more than anything in my life was food.
Hello guys, welcome to the Empty Your Bucket Nutrition Plan. Coach JT Tapias and I am excited today. I have Pastor E. I'm actually in his house. First time in Philly. I passed through here before, but this is the first time I actually get to go through the city. We went to the Rocky statue. We passed by there today.
Art museum, yeah.
Yeah. So passed by there. We went through the city, did some shots, some B-roll. Beautiful city. Reminds me a lot of New York. How long have you been out here?
Man, I've been here, it'll be 18 years. It's 18 years this month.
Okay.
Yep, 18 years in Philadelphia.
You're originally from?
DC.
Okay.
Washington, DC. I'm down the street.
So you went from DC and you came straight here?
Went to DC, went to Dallas. Went actually from DC to Maryland to Dallas, to Houston to Dallas to Little Rock to Philly. Yeah.
Okay, so you've been around a little bit.
A little something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then how long have you been in ministry?
30 years. It'll be 30 years next March.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started when you were 20. I'm doing the math here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So Pastor E, recently we got connected through a good friend.
Absolutely.
And you were having some challenges with your health. You felt like you got that conviction that you should start looking after your body, and you reached out to us for nutrition coaching.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about what led you to actually reach out. Like, what was the thing? What was the detonator that you said, I got to reach out, I need help here?
Yeah, well, I hit a wall basically with, I'm a guy that, when it comes to certain things, I need just structure to it. If you tell me, I don't need all of necessarily the background, why this happens and why this doesn't happen, unless I really, really need to know it when it comes to something. When it comes to the Bible and exegesis, yes. My family, yes. But I'm saying, if this gets me healthy, tell me what to eat, tell me what exercises to do, what time to eat, how much to eat, how much not to eat, what to stay away from, I can do that. And I really needed something structured and with more accountability, because I was doing things and I lost a good amount of weight, but I really needed help for consistency because my weight was creeping back up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what were you doing?
I did keto, and then I was just doing portion control meals.
Okay.
So I was doing portion control, but the issue is I would do my portion control meals, but then I would snack. And when you have eating issues, you miscalculate what's really happening in your mind. You think, hey, I ate a good meal. Hey, I did this amount of cardio and I did the lifting.
Right.
but you're not thinking about how all of that works together and the intricacies of it. So
Right.
yeah.
And so exactly. No, and I'm very familiar with that. So you were applying your apologetics to your nutrition, right? I get it. Yeah, excusing one thing and another. And
Absolutely. I worked out. Like, what? How did you work out? What did you do? What are you eating? So yeah, it wasn't. And so my weight began because I lost 30. Then it started creeping back up, and I didn't know what to do, but because I didn't really know that I was an emotional eater. I didn't know that. I mean, you don't really know what you are until you like get into a doctor's office and they start asking me, so this week, how many drinks did you have? How many, you know how they ask all the different questions?
Right.
You just kind of like, you start kind of calculating, and then if you're embarrassed about something, you say, yeah, you really had 10, but you say 3, And so when you start doing that, you like, I think I got an issue when it talks about eating particularly.
Right.
How many, I started thinking about, I said, man, I do snack a lot. I do tend to buy these a little bit more. Every Friday I eat with my kids, the pizza night. And then when my wife gets sick, I just order out. And so I was just starting to calculate. I said, this is not working.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what I hear you saying is that when you got faced with those diagnostic questions, and you started to make up excuses in your own mind, that brought conviction in where you said there's a challenge here.
Absolutely.
That goes beyond me having a big appetite or me enjoying food, but I'm actually mitigating emotions
Absolutely.
through food.
Absolutely.
Right? That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a very that's one of those points where I truly believe people go from being blind to just their eyes opening up and then starting to see situations in their lives where they say, hey, I really need to change here because I'm using food as an idol. And so, with that being said, I'd love to segue into idols, right? Because in Christianity, we are very familiar with idols, right? We know that we have crutches in our lives, idols, things that we tend to lean on. But oftentimes, I think in Christianity, the thing that gets left out is food, right? It is often said that, for Christians, food is the Christian crack. We come from the world with vices, we leave that behind, and then we sort of pick up that innocent drug called food. The thing that surprises me, 23 years into being in the trenches, 13 as a Christian, is that week after week after week, it's the message I never hear at the church. Why do you think that is?
I think what makes drugs and sexual promiscuity different than food is that drugs is overtly, clearly an addiction. Sex, because it's a natural inclination of every human being for the most part, it can be an addiction, but it's treated like, man, but I still get it. I think with food, because it's a natural part of life and sustenance, it's difficult to apply something you need with something that's an addiction. I think that's number one.
Right.
I think number two, church is very fellowship oriented, and half of what we do, if your church is worth its weight in salt, is done around relationships and food. I mean, and that's not a bad thing. However, most of the time, when I grew up, I don't know, you're Latino, right?
I am.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you know what it is,
food.
bro.
It's all around food. Yeah.
We in Black church, we had church punch. The mothers make the church punch, cookies. Yeah. That's the budget one.
Yeah.
So then you got the veggie tray. It was always funny. Everything just stays on the veggie tray. People go to the meats, the salty meats and the crackers with the cheeses, and then the fruit tray get hit. And then when you upgrade, we eat. And so we do a lot around meals. And so there's almost like a celebration of food, but without forgetting about the fact that, man, how do we relate to food? And I just don't think that, I'll give you an example, man. I remember when we was a part of a denomination. I went to this, and if I said a denomination, you'd be like, I know. And we went to the denominational event, and bro, when I tell you 75% of the guys of us, I mean me included, were morbidly obese. It was crazy. And when we went out to eat, We went out to the most terrible spots, you know. And so, you know, I think we justify it because it's built around fellowship, enjoyment, and that kind of thing. But I do think that it affects our witness. You know, it affects, you know, like when you look at like groups like the Nation of Islam, when they look at Christianity, one of the things that the Nation of Islam is known for, even if you don't like them, they're known for discipline, right? And so when you look at the Christian, we may have the truth, but we're not known for discipline. When I mean, even though there's just as much hypocrisy, if not more, there as it is here, their physical appearance of discipline shames the sloppiness of our appearance as Christians.
Right, absolutely. And there's many reasons why I think that that's the case, because the big shaker and mover for them is actually doing something. They feel like they have to do something in order to gain their salvation. Where a lot of Christians are simply like, well, faith, grace and faith, right? And that's it. I don't have to do anything. And so, but obviously, James speaks clearly about that. You know, that faith without works is dead. And
so, it's crazy when you say that, because Colossians keeps coming to mind. It names all of these sins in Colossians 3. Then it says, which all amount to idolatry. And so what does that tell us about how we view sin? Of course, Paul alludes to gluttony being a sin in Titus. You know, Cretans whose God is their stomach. I mean, doesn't get more clear than your God is your stomach.
Wow.
You know, and so I think that we as the church haven't dealt with it, because I just think it's one last thing that we honestly want to hold on to, that it's a community addiction. It's not just an individual addiction. And I think that we need to begin thinking differently about how we relate to food. I mean, how we relate to everything. Paul says, you know, he doesn't want to be mastered by anything. And he's talking about in the context of liberties. And so is food, eating food wrong? Is eating bad food sometimes wrong? No. I do think that we just don't have the biblical and theological framework developed to really think through the role of food as a tool. I think that even we were talking earlier, when you look at the Levitical covenant and you begin just look, why are there dietary laws? I mean, we're not saying we're about to go back and do a Levitical eating habits, the Levirate eating habits, but why did God include food and what we ate and didn't eat, particularly Israel? You know, it says in Exodus 19:6, it said he wanted them to be a kingdom of priests. A part of that kingdom of priests was how they kept the laws as a way to be distinct from the nations. And so
from pagan nations.
And so why is eating a distinctive of holiness? I mean, biblically, it's like eating how you eat under the law was a distinction to display God's holiness to the nations. And so to even think through that is just mind-boggling, that God, that's what I love about the word. The word, the gospel, it covers all of life. And so in working through that and thinking that it's still something I'm working through. So I'm not even acting like, I'm acting like, for me, I haven't come to a mastery on this. I'm still working through this. Because I've always heard, bodily discipline is a little game, but godliness, it's almost like, but bodily discipline there is talking about asceticism, and it's not talking about, what we're thinking about today.
But it's interesting that Paul will use those two examples, right? And so, yes, godliness is for this life and the life to come.
Yeah.
But he also, he puts that beside physical training, right? Disciplining our body. He uses that example, says, I discipline my body, right? And so, it's really interesting, because in my interactions, and I work with a lot of Christians, mostly Christians that come to my program, the idea really is not trying to fear them into doing this, but bringing biblical convictions. And so one of the things that brings I always bring to people's attention is the fact that, in Romans chapter 12, God says that we are to live as a holy sacrifice, right? And I'm sure the Apostle Paul wasn't talking about a six-pack, but he was certainly talking about all areas, right? And being able, because one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control.
That's right.
And it's real interesting because I'm always, I'm 13 years into, walking with the Lord, and I still see a lack of discipline in the church. And I don't say that in a judgmental way. I love my brothers and sisters, and I know we all struggle and we all fall short. I get that. But I truly believe that when you start to think about it, a man that's empowered by the Spirit of God, right, and has the ability to really tap into prayer, what can't he or she do? Yeah. Right? The big challenge is, oftentimes I don't see that a lot of Christians are praying about their body. They're not seeing it as what it really is. And I want to walk into some of the differences that really distinguish and differentiate our program, because we look at it from a very different lens. And, the vast majority of fad diets out there, keto, Atkins, South Beach, macro counting, calorie counting, South Beach, North Beach, West Beach, right? which you said you had done. The vast majority of these programs are focused on dynamics, meaning eat this, don't eat that. Yeah. That's like someone coming into your church, right? Plagued with sin. And you're going, dude, just behave. Right. Absolutely. How do you do that? Right. And so the idea then is you got to let that man know, that woman know what they're really dealing with. Right. You're dealing with sin. Right. And for the very first time, they've never heard that. Right. And it can bring conviction, and that can lead to change. In the same way, when people come to our program, we talk to them and we say, you're not big boned. You don't have a huge appetite. It's not because of your cultural background, but we believe that it's actually an addiction to food. We believe that certain foods, high insulinogenic foods that spike a lot of insulin, rice, potatoes, breads, pasta, the typical American diet is a diet of sugar, because everything we eat peaks insulin, right? The question is how much insulin. And so things like rice, potatoes, beans, those things spike a tremendous amount of insulin. Right. And what sugar does to the brain is the same thing that drugs do to the brain. So when you eat a hamburger, when you eat a pizza, it's not just what's happening to the scale, but what is actually happening to your brain. So I truly believe that, we've been together, working together inside of the program now for 10 weeks. Your lowest point, you were 35 pounds down, which is a tremendous amount of weight. I wish I would have brought one of my visual tools that I use to show people, right? But what you're looking at in mass, 35 pounds is right about that. Yeah. It's a whole lot of weight. Yeah. I often tell, when I had the gyms, I used to take a 40-pound dumbbell and hand it over to someone and say, imagine carrying that around all day long. Yeah. Right? And now put it down. Notice how much more energy you have. Yeah. And so the idea there really is bringing number one, biblical conviction to those that those believers, and being able to align that to biblical principles, and then really showing them what they're dealing with. They're not dealing with appetite; they're dealing with an addiction. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because when we first met, I brought that to your attention. And was that something that you were already aware of, or as you walked through it and I gave you that framework, you started to think about things differently?
It was really, I started knowing that I had something, but I think it wasn't mentioned in a process. So, I paid for a trainer at LA Fitness like 10 years ago. I still have my account.
For how long?
Man, I couldn't last in it. Man, they literally killed me. Yeah. They just said, just cut sugars. That's all they said to me. It was I had a nutritionist. They had the little ball fist test. Eat this, vegetables, meat, starch. And I was just like, and bought a plate off of Amazon. Didn't work. Yeah. I put myself on keto. I did Whole30. Whole30 I did okay on, but still it just, I didn't really understand paleo. I had some folk in my church that were doing paleo. And what's the workout program, the Craze? They even have gyms.
F45 Orange Theory?
No, the big Craze.
Insanity?
No, not that one. They have gyms like in every city. It's on the tip of my tongue.
LA Fitness?
No, it's a type of workout plan, but they have gyms. People jump up on.
Plyometrics. Plyometrics?
But what's the name of the program?
It's HIIT training. It's high intensity interval training.
I can't remember the name.
Circuit training. CrossFit. That's it. I was like, huh? Yeah. Okay. CrossFit. So I see people get shredded. Or like one guy was like 400. He's like shredded, Yeah. So I've seen that. I just couldn't do it. Right. And the reason I said, why? And I said, why am I so intimidated by like
P90X, Insanity, CrossFit. And when I got on this program, it was like, because I never dealt with my heart. I said, I never dealt with my heart. And I've always known that, you know, I teach 2 Peter 1 and add to your faith, you know, moral excellence, to your moral excellence, you know, knowledge, self-control, perseverance. And the word for self-control in that passage means passions under control. It literally means God has given us self-control as a leash for our passions. And so I kind of use the illustration, you know, we're kind of in the hood here. You know, around here, you know, people don't have little small dogs, they have big dogs.
Right.
And those dogs, you can't put a vinyl leash around their neck. I said, so they go to Home Depot or Lowe's and they get chains because in order to control that dog, you need a chain that can match their strength. So self-control is the chain that God gives us to match the strength of our passions. Our passions aren't bad. We just have to direct them to the right sources. And so in thinking about that in this program, you know, for me, it's like, you know, I'm out with my mentor last night. He takes me to a Mediterranean spot, ate right, you know, everything was cool. You know, he's like, don't you want dessert? And I was like, you know, I can't have dessert. So I ordered one for my wife. I took a bite of it, put it away. My wife, and then my wife gets it. And so,
isn't that empowering?
Yeah, you have no idea I wouldn't have been able to do that in the past. Like my son in ministry takes me out to eat for lunchtime. So you got to taste one of these pastas. I just want you I tasted one piece. I was like, okay, I'm done. I ate my salad, my grilled chicken, and I wasn't even like, man, I need all of this. It was just good because over time, not only have I seen it as an addiction, I've become committed to my health because, you know, I'm no longer on diabetes medicine.
Wow.
You know,
that's huge.
At all. You know, I'm not on diabetes medicine. I just had a cardiologist appointment the other day because before the program, I was upstairs in my office. I was working and the center of my chest was just tight and I got dizzy. I was like, oh no, what's wrong with me? So my wife, I said, I'm going to the hospital. I went to emergency. Got in there, my blood pressure was like 175 over 120.
Wow.
135, something crazy. So I'm on, at the time, I'm on high blood pressure medicine. They said if you lose 30 pounds, they'll probably take you off. So they put me on this weekly thing where I had to text them twice a day what my blood pressures are so they can monitor me. And it wasn't that I was having a heart attack, it was that my blood pressure was up. And so I've been on blood pressure medicine. So I met with my cardiologist the other day. They just still follow me. Yep. Not that I had heart issues, but because they ran all the tests. But they said, man, the way you're doing, soon we're probably just going to take you off. You don't need it anymore. And so I'm starting to see a reversal in my health journey of just having a life of just really discipline.
Wow.
Where I'm just able to keep it moving. Not only that, you know, I have fatty liver, which of course is fat around the liver,
Yep.
and long term could cause severe forms of liver cancer. They said, but if you lose weight, it'll just go away. My blood work came back clear. Super normal. Wow. My A1C has gone down even further. So it's just seeing my numbers. I mean, that's why I sent you a picture of my A1C. Like my A1C was higher before this, even though I was going down. I was back in pre-diabetic range because I just wasn't disciplined. So on the program, it put me back in normal range. So it's green, not yellow. So it's just been great working through the program and thinking through it from a spiritual perspective of, man, not just I want to be here for my family, not just I want to get rid of these health issues. Those are good applications of it, but I have to deal with the idol first because I've always said I want to be here for my family, but then a lot of addicts think about their family and still take their mom's money out their mom's purse and go buy drugs because when you're addicted, you don't think rationally about relationships. You know, you think about fulfilling that need. And so I think this time in my journey, it's more so, this is an idol. That doesn't mean I can't have this sometimes at some point in the future, but my relationship with food has changed because now I see food as a tool and not a savior, which is a different relationship that you really have to work through in your heart and mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So I see the physiological changes, which are obvious with your A1C, with the fatty liver, basically that being discarded and you moving from that perspective, which is very motivating, right? Because you're not just seeing those physical changes, those aesthetic changes, but now your blood work is backing that up. What about from a spiritual perspective? What would you say? I mean, have you felt like you've delved more into your prayer time, your devotional time? Have you seen any of those disciplines spill over into your spiritual life?
Yeah. So everybody's asking me, what are you doing to lose weight? And I said, it's not a weight loss journey. It's a deliverance journey.
Wow.
And I said, because I said, I've treated, I said, if I just focus on weight loss, I won't lose the weight. I said, but I focus this on deliverance and then I'll treat it differently. So I've been telling people, I said, I don't know what's going on with me, but this journey has just made my entire spiritual life more joyful. My trials less hefty, because I wasn't realizing, like my wife went to the hospital this week. My son has a brain cyst and I had some other issues with some family members I won't bring up. But usually I eat. When I put everybody to bed, everybody sleep, I go in my man cave, I pull out my sugary drinks, I pull out my Doritos or popcorn or whatever.
Self-medicating.
And I sit in front of the TV and for 2-3 hours while everybody sleep. Then I get into bed like 2:30, 3 in the morning, trying to wake up at 6. I'm groggy from bad sleep because I didn't get good sleep. I'm not as effective. So now with dealing with the idolatry of my sinful relationship with food, and now it's like other areas of my life feel like they began to dissolve, and I'm able to, my time in the Word is even more robust, prayer time is robust, even my sermon prep is more fervent. So it's been great. It's been great. Been more patient with my family. So it's kind of, it's hard to explain. I'm still processing it because I'm only, 12 weeks in. 10. So for me, I really don't know all of what's going on, but this is the first time, everything I've ever been on, I felt like I'll do this for a season, then I'll maintain. This is the first thing I've ever done where I feel like this is going to be my life, which is different because now I feel like this is my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I think God's with me today. You know how many times we have something called Solemn Assembly every year, where we begin our year off with, now we do 21 days of prayer. We used to do just for 7 days. And I can tell you for the last 10 years, what's been on one of my prayer things. Guess what that has been?
I want to get this in check. I want to get this physical aspect of my life.
Over 10 years, brother.
Wow.
And this is the first year that it really hit.
Praise God.
Yeah, the pandemic did it made it worse for me.
For everyone.
Yeah, if you that picture with me in the blue T-shirt on Instagram that you saw, that was 2020.
Wow. That's crazy. You mentioned a couple of things that I see as a theme in people that have challenges with losing weight. So there's something real interesting that happens in the evenings that most people don't realize. Statistically, we fall into temptation more in the evenings than we do in the morning.
Yeah.
And the reason that happens is because the entire day you've been disciplining yourself and being an adult, right? You have your responsibilities. Once you get home, there's a lot of emotional anchors in the house. Your family, your loved ones, food, you smell food, someone's cooking, and you get those warm feelings, right? Those warm feelings make you hungry and things creep up. It's interesting that you say you would put everyone to bed and then you would go do what a lot of people do, which is self-medicate. And I owe this to myself. Right? I deserve this.
Absolutely.
Right? I've worked hard.
You don't say it, but that's exactly what you're saying.
I deserve
Absolutely.
this. And then of course you feel groggy because the entire night for the first 4 hours of sleep, you're digesting food. So your body's really not resting. It's working.
Yeah.
So you wake up the next day, you're tired, you're hungry because you peaked all that insulin. So early in the morning, you get super hungry. And that's just a perpetual cycle.
Yeah.
But besides the addiction component, the spiritual component, the physiological component, there's something real interesting that I hear often with people that are coming through our program, and it's, JT, I don't know exactly how this all works yet. I'm trying to figure it out. What I do know is I'm not going back.
Yeah.
And when I hear that, right, there's this is a particular fire in people's eyes when I hear that. And that says simply, man, I know how defeated I was. I know where I was. I know where I am now. I know I have a grip on this. I know who I serve, and I'm going to tap into that power, and I'm going to make this part of my spiritual walk. And that becomes very, very, very powerful. I know we're down a total of, inside of the program, 35 pounds. The idea really is to start transitioning you in from a phase 1 to a hybrid, which starts incorporating. And I want to get a little bit into this because this is where, we become very controversial in the nutrition world, right? And so, we talk about in the beginning in phase 1, really putting people through abstinence, because we see the world of nutrition through the same lens of addiction counseling. Yeah, I'm a clinical counselor with a degree in eating disorders and substance abuse. Yeah. And so what we do is we basically take people through that same exact process that an addict goes through. Any addict understands that he needs to go into abstinence. Absolutely. Right? There's no such thing as let me sprinkle a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The big challenge is that if you have an alcohol problem, 12-step will tell you you can never touch alcohol again. Well, you can't really do that with food, right? So then we need some what we call self-binding mechanisms, right? And there's many ways to lose weight. You said it yourself. You can work it out, very hard to do, very hard to sustain. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter how old you are, who you are, how young you are. Yeah. You go to CrossFit 6-7 days a week, there will come a time where your body will break down. And so when you don't have that caloric output, guess what? You're putting it in. Absolutely. The other way is, going on these fad diets, starving yourself, taking 15, 20 pounds off, but because you didn't actually learn the process and you didn't go through the abstinence, because you can count macros all you want. The macro counters will tell you you can eat whatever you want as long as you keep your macros. And that's true, you will lose weight. The problem is you'll never overcome the addiction. Wow. Right? Because you take 600 calories of a Kit Kat bar and 600 calories of a steak. Those two nutrients are absorbed very differently in your body. Wow. They do something very different to your brain. So the idea is not just macro counting, calorie counting, or point counting. You got to take yourself through a process of abstinence where you're resetting your palate, right? So those sugary, salty affections that you have dwindle down. And then you're taking your brain through a process of resetting your brain's reward pathways. So let me explain that. When we eat these high in halogenic foods, and these are things you're experiencing right now, when you were doing those self-medicating situations at night, what you were doing was spiking a ton of dopamine. Because anytime we feel friction, right, we want to go back to those things that we call comfort food. Absolutely. That spikes dopamine. Dopamine is a neuroreceptor, which is very, very much, makes us addicted. Whatever spikes dopamine makes us addicted, right? So we have that dopamine set point on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being none, 10 being all the way, at an 8 and a 9. And we know how to spike that dopamine. We know exactly what does that. When we bring that set point down to a 2 or 3, and now, and what we're gonna do in that hybrid of phase 2 and 3, you start to progressively bring those slow digesting carbs in, which we've taken out for that period of abstinence. What happens now is you don't need them or like them as much as you wanted them or needed them before. When somebody's asking me, Italian food is one of my favorite foods, bro. But like even when I had a mishap meal and I just could not do it. Like I had a mishap meal, a cheesesteak with a friend, my body was like, dude, I don't even know what this is. I was like, I don't know my mother-in-law was like, your body's changed. She's like, your body has just changed, and now and there's so many spiritual illustrations out of that, man. But my body is just not the same. Even when I'm there looking at desserts, and I'm not a big sugar person in this. I know carbs are sugar, but I'm more of a carb person. Carbs become sugar, but and so I can't even. Like even when it comes to, I saw somebody eating I teased Priscilla Shire. She had a big old burger. She was eating with
Beth Moore, and I said, the food, sis. And she said, I know, pray for me. But I'm looking at this burger. I'm looking at this, and she's in great condition. But I was like, both of them are, as a matter of fact. And I'm looking at the burger. I said, I could not see myself sitting down eating that burger. Just like, I don't even necessarily, like, I know I'll have cheat meals, but my cheats will be more so cheats that don't feel like I ate a monster. I don't even know if I'm making sense.
Yeah.
But it does. It's just not the same for me anymore.
So we talk about an 80-20, right?
Yeah.
We talk about that 80-20. And 80-20 says that Monday through Friday, you basically, you self-bind, which is basically you follow the protocols Monday through Friday. Saturday and Sunday, you loosen up a little bit in phase 3. And the idea there is that, you're not going to go into any exaggerations. You're not going to do what you used to do before.
Yeah.
And then we leave 5 pounds of wiggle room so you can enjoy those things.
Yeah.
And then Monday morning, you get up, you apply your 80%. Monday, Tuesday, by Wednesday, you're back down to your fighting weight.
Right.
So it becomes very doable because even discipline is a muscle that needs rest.
Yeah.
And so,
I found that out the other day because I did 7 slow burns. Did you see that thing that one week?
Yeah.
I did 7 slow burns.
Yep.
And I was trying to get back to that the next week, and my body was like, nah. I was like, what's wrong? My body was like, I said, I think I'm going to lay down now.
Absolutely. Yep. So, we have Monday through Friday, and we pick Monday through Friday. I say Monday through Friday, you can pick any day. I like Monday through Friday because for most people, that structure, right?
Yeah.
You work and you have a consistent schedule. It's the
That's
weekends. Right. The weekends are the troubling thing for most people. I often say that, if people didn't have to work and the weekend were Monday through Friday and your work week was Saturday and Sunday, we'd all be dead.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we do crazy things over the weekend, right? And a lot of times people are just trying to escape the responsibilities because they don't have to go to work and they, let me do this, let me do that. And then Monday they feel like they got hit, by a train. Most heart attacks happen on Monday, by the way.
Really?
Statistically, yes.
Wow.
70% of heart attacks happen on Monday.
I got to rewatch this. I got a lot of illustrations to write down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's because we want to self-medicate, right?
Wow.
One of the things that's interesting, and I think, a lot of people would relate to this, one of the things that brought me to my knees, because I was, for 31 years, a man of the world, former professional athlete, doing some great things all over the world. I played in Spain and Mexico. I played here. I thought I had the world, in the palm of my hand.
Yeah.
And then, the physical aspect, my physical aspect was always sort of my idol. That's where I would draw strength from. This is me being in the world.
Yeah.
So one day I wake up and my heart is skipping a beat. And, I thought it's not a big deal. I'm probably being a hypochondriac like every other man.
Yeah.
Right? Well, later that morning, I had the gym at this point. One of my physician clients came in. I said, hey, can you take my pulse? He took my pulse and he said, you need to go to a walk-in clinic right now. He says, I can't really tell you. He says, but you got to get checked out. So I go in there, they rush me to the emergency room. I was having AFib and I had AFib and AFib, 2 electrical problems in the heart. And it was due because of the lifestyle I was living at the time. I was caught up in a stealth drug addiction to Adderall.
Wow.
I was self-medicating with alcohol only on the weekends, but I'm an extremist. So Monday through Friday, I was doing my thing, preaching fitness and nutrition. And then on Saturday and Sundays, living a very incongruent life. Right.
Well,
that almost took me, to an early death.
Wow.
So now they take that idol away from me, which was my fitness and, or my physical body. And, for 2 weeks, I tried to discipline myself after I left that hospital. And then I was, boom, back at it. And I woke up on a Sunday morning, hungover, mentally, physically, spiritually, and I started writing a suicidal letter to my sister.
Yeah. Wow.
I was about to check out. But interestingly enough, I had an encounter with a gentleman about my age, good looking dude, married to a beautiful wife. Interestingly enough, I had met him a handful of times in the elevator on Saturdays. I was on my way to get faded into the night. He was coming back from church with a Bible under his arm. And it always struck me because I would mess with him and I would be like, man, put that Bible down. Let's go party. And he's like, no, I left that lifestyle a long time ago. You should come to church with me. And the typical, worldly thing, oh man, the walls will cave in if I go to church.
Right.
Well, that morning I decided to, call him up and say, hey man, I don't know what you could do for me, but I don't have another 2 days of me. So he came down, he sat across from me, he shared the gospel with me. to be honest with you, he invited me to church. The only reason I went was because he struck me as a genuine guy. I asked for help, right? But I said, I'll go to church, and when I come back, I'll go through with my plans. Well, we went to church, and it was Saturday evening service. That pastor that day preached on the book of Job. Very quickly, just did a survey of the book of Job, and it hit me like a lightning bolt.
Wow.
Because everything that pastor was saying, I had in my life, except the fact that I wasn't a righteous man. I certainly wasn't serving God, right? And so that day, I went up to one of the elders there. He prayed for me, and crazy story for another day. But I grew up in a crazy environment where men don't cry, and I broke down crying. And I walked out, and as I was walking out, an older elder there at the church saw me. He said, "Son, why are you crying?" I said, "I have no idea." He said, I have something for you. And he gave me a Bible. And I remember he handed me that Bible, and I said, where do I even start? And he said in the book of John.
That's what we all say.
So I opened it, and I just, I put a little crease in it, just closed it, and I took off. My buddy who invited me stayed behind and talked to that pastor who he knew. And some way, somehow, this pastor who had been in ministry for 50 years, he said to my friend, he said, "That dude's gonna get it." And sure enough, I left those doors, and progressively all these vices started to fall off. For the very first time, I was able to open the Bible and understand it, because I can't tell you how many times I had thrown it across the room, frustrated because I couldn't read it, because I was trying to read it, rationally.
Right.
Things started to change, and all of those vices, all of those things that I used to use to self-medicate, slowly but surely fell off.
Wow.
So the program is called the Empty Your Bucket Plan, because I was filling my bucket with all the things of the world. But then when I had my encounter with Jesus, I had to empty out all the things that I had, all the money, the things that I was chasing, empty it out, and then fill it with things that the Lord was putting in me.
Yeah.
And I was a disciplined man, athlete, trained every day. So it's not about discipline, and it's not about white knuckling your way through these situations. It's the right dynamic and tapping into the power, right? His power.
Right.
And so, Pastor E, I mean, this has been incredible. I commend you because a lot of people in your position don't see this physical aspect as something for this side of eternity. But you have. And one of the conversations we had recently was, I said, man, you're having not just an impact on your life and on your family, but on your congregation. And you mentioned there was a wave of people that were already seeing your change and being inspired by that. You posted a video of a young man who got inspired by you. He was on the treadmill. And so I just commend you for that, because, you have a high calling, right? You're called to be above reproach.
Yeah.
And, you're stepping into that responsibility, and not a lot of people are doing that. And I hope a lot of people and a lot of pastors that see you and respect you and know you will follow through on this. And so I want to congratulate you, because you're stepping forward. You're being what I believe to be a pioneer in this area of Christianity, and seeing things from a very different perspective. And so much respect for you, and excited for your results. We're going to continue doing this.
Gotta keep it going.
I'm committed to you, because I know the influence you have over many, many people. And I appreciate you inviting us here to your house in Philadelphia. And it's been fun, man. I know from the beginning we talked about that. And so thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your time, and let's continue to move forward.
Well, thank you for first off, it was good to just hear your testimony. I want to bypass that, because I was listening. Great stuff with your testimony, but thanks for getting me in this program, man, and getting it going, because this has been a life changer for me. Really has changed my life. It was funny. When I went up to New York yesterday, one of my sons in the ministry, I've walked with him in New York before. So, we walk around Brooklyn, we walk around Manhattan, whatever. Where we're going somewhere, because we're catching a train, you got to kind of move fast.
Right.
Bro, I'll be about to die. Let me tell you, I was about to die, right, usually. And so I didn't think anything of it. And yesterday, we were just pow, 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 pow. And he said, "Can you slow down?" Now he's like probably 145, 50 pounds.
How old is he?
He's 42.
Okay.
And I'm like, "What's wrong?" He said, "You're different now." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I can't keep up with you." He said, "I don't know what you're doing, He said, but when you were here last time, you were huffing and puffing like you were dying on a cross, you know. But he says, now you're moving through here and I'm trying to keep pace with you and you still got energy. He said, this is one of the most transformative things I've seen.
Wow.
You know, and so it was just, you know, I'm having people say stuff to me that I'm not even thinking about. But I'm not looking for it, but it just feels great to see the results of it in the, I mean, it's like, even when I walked in, you saw one of the members say skinny, you know, that's like everybody in the church got a comment. Like, and it's kind of like, I've preached a lot of sermons, but I've never gotten this many comments off of a sermon as I have weight loss. And so it's almost like this journey has been one of the most powerful sermons I've preached.
Wow. It's one of those. Yeah, no, I get it. It's interesting, right? When you're going through some trials, you're going through some things, and then you get to preach on that, it comes alive, right? People can feel the congruency. Yeah, I also think that when you start to really walk the talk and talk the walk, as I say, you know, to really walk out your prayers, you come from a very different angle, because there's an angle of congruency. Like when you're living it, you're preaching it, people are feeling that.
Now the charismatic side of me, you know, I'm a little charismatic.
Yeah.
I sense God's presence in this process.
Yeah.
Not just, man, I can't tell you how unmotivated I can be at times when it comes to, like, if I'm on something and I just have a bad day and I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife would see me do all this meal prep, sermon prep, write a book, normal school, normal church stuff, deal with the kids, deal with her, and get up every day and do slow burns. And she said, I've never seen you like this. Yeah. She literally keeps saying that. She said, I've just never seen you like this. And so she's like, you can't leave me behind. And so now she's jumped on this deal. And so it's been an honorable journey. So I want to thank you, man. Thank you. Ultimately, thank Jesus. Thank you as well, man.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. What you said there is very powerful, and it's that behavior shifts identity. Behavior shifts identity. So it's not just I'm going to go burn some calories, but I'm actually going to activate my physiology because this is who I am now. This is what I do, right? And doing that is very powerful. Most people try to force themselves into activities without having the identity.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that people's walk, even in spirituality, becomes real when you actually when you're actually identifying with who you are and what you stand for, right? And that you've been saved by grace and by faith and all those things. Yeah. Versus just, you know, walking it out without any kind of connection to what the word is saying or any of those things. I see it oftentimes with a lot of believers that are struggling in their walk. Yeah. Because they're just going through the motions. Yeah. And so this is very similar to that. So I want to thank you. Continue on this journey. You know, please remember where you were, where you are now, and that you know you're a light. You're a light for a lot of people in the midst of darkness, and you're showing them that possibility. So I commend you for that.
Yeah, man. God is good, man. Yeah.
Thanks, Pastor E.
Blessings to you. Blessings to you.
Great conversation.
Great.
All right.